my name's Ryan Ferwerda. You can spell it. It's Ferwerda, and I'm a line producer on Madden NFL 12. Essentially, this year, knowing that there was potential labor strife in the NFL and kind of a lockout and things like that, we knew we really had to go after our core gamers. Last year, we released the game with its main feature is called Game Flow, which some viewed as a more, I hate to use the word casual, but a more accessible experience. Basically, in our game, calling a play is viewed by everybody as the most intimidating thing because you have to know so much about American football, from is it zone coverage, man coverage, blitz, all these things. Game Flow essentially removed play call and allowed the game to call a game plan. So this year, we wanted to kind of swing back and go after our core guys. And really, Madden NFL 12, and it sounds really cliche, but it's kind of like a love letter to our fans. So essentially, we've kind of scoured the forums. Our team's always been really active on social networks and kind of found out what are the number one requests you guys have. What do you want to do to make the game as authentic as possible? Because we've always built Madden to be the most authentic football game available. But moving forward, we really wanted to see what those guys wanted and see if we could kind of be collaborative with making a feature set. So really, that's sort of where we ended up. The big highlights, which I'll show you guys here, is all new in-game presentation. It basically completely mimics a real TV broadcast. We actually sent our designers to the TV broadcasters. They sat in the production trucks behind them, watched how they shoot a game, what they call, where they show, who they show when something happens, how they tell a story in the game. And additionally, we actually placed the cameras within the stadium via schematics exactly where they're at. So, when you watch your team on TV, you're used to seeing a certain way the game's presented. We were able to mimic that in our game now. All the teams have their authentic runouts. Each team does their own individual practices and traditions when they come out. That stuff's all captured now. We also have a brand new collision engine in game, which again I'll show you guys when we get into. It's just hard to talk about it and show it at the same time. So the new collision system sounds like something minor, but it's really a fundamental change. Collision doesn't happen until players actually touch. Traditionally, when you play Madden, really any sports game, there's a feel of kind of suction. Like when you get close to each other, you kind of suck into each other and the animation starts. The idea here is that the animation and really the interactivity doesn't start until there's actual collision when it should happen. So the second you play the game, it feels fundamentally different from prior versions. In franchise mode, there's actually a handy video I can show you guys. It overshows all the features. It's 100 plus new features with 25 major overhauls. Franchise mode's our most played mode. It's similar to a manager mode. You can play up to 30 seasons. Pretty much accurately represent the entire NFL. And then in online, our big new feature is called communities. The best way I can explain it is you went to, university and you had all your buddies you lived with, and there was 6 or 7 of you and you moved away and you used to play with your own special rule set and your own everything. And, now that you've all moved away, you can't play anymore. Well, the idea with communities is you can join a community from 2 members all the way up to 2,000. And you can essentially make your own online realm for how you want to play. So with a lot of our fans, we have real passionate fans who want to play strictly simulation style. A lot of people find that really boring, so you have guys that want to play kind of arcadey and go off and do their own thing and not follow rules. Then they can make their own experience. Within online communities, there's their own leaderboards, their own stat tracking and everything. So we really use that at our office to great success, with basically having an office champion, every week who's at the top of the community leaderboard. And the idea is that anybody from a group of friends to 2 people to an entire forum community can jump on and make their own custom Madden experience. So that being said, we'll jump into the game. So right here is kind of normally traditionally we'd have our cover athlete here, but this year, kind of when I was talking about our social interactivity that we've done with kind of the community, we did a brand new thing where actually the cover athlete was able to be voted on by the fans. So each team was represented with one individual, and it was basically a 32-team bracket. And then every single week, fans could go on and vote for who they wanted to advance. And the amazing thing that happened is this guy, Peyton Hillis, kind of an unknown, unheard of guy, plays for the Cleveland Browns, which is a team that's known as notoriously always losing. They're basically considered one of the worst sort of football franchises around. The entire city got behind this guy, and they voted him in, and he's now the cover athlete. And he destroyed everyone in his path. If you want an average 65 to 35%. It was every single morning. It was on the front page of the newspaper. Don't forget to vote for Peyton Hillis, on the team site, everything. He was on Twitter campaigning, and it was really amazing. He literally went up against every single NFL heavyweight player and took them all down, which is really good. And fans loved it. It's great. City of Cleveland, we put the city on the cover and things like that. It's really this big. It's like they said, it's their Super Bowl. It's their huge moment that they won. So first off, I'll jump into the game. I'll show you some things. So one thing you'll notice, everything from the loading screen after that all the way to coin toss is brand new. One of the new features you'll see is a live cam. And what that is, it's really cool tech. It's the first game we've ever used it in. It's similar to kind of the Avatar movie tech. Basically, what happens is we hire cameramen, in this case, NFL Films guys who shoot these games professionally. They go into a motion capture room in our studios in Canada, and they hold a camera, and when they look through the viewfinder of the camera, they see the game. And essentially, they're able to walk around our scriptables and our scenes and shoot the game the way they would really shoot it. Because it's really tough to hand animate kind of camera bob and that human element. So what you'll see here is the cameras really look like a true cameraman's holding them in the right position. And we're able to capture. It's the first game we've really ever debuted this in. And like Keith had mentioned earlier, you'll see here, the game is right now in the process of being completely up to date. So the day the game releases, day and date, there'll be the ability to download a complete new roster and completely update the game with updated salaries, ratings, player numbers, all transfers we complete. And then we continually will support that with weekly roster updates. So every single week after the games happen on Sunday and Monday, that Tuesday you'll be able to get brand new updates throughout the entire season. So this stuff's all brand new. You'll see an exterior shot. And again, these are the shots that, using CBS and kind of the network providers in the United States, this is exactly how they shoot a pregame intro. A lot of the small details, like that flag in Seattle, is a big deal for them. It's the first year we've actually included it in the bird. So each team has their own individual kind of regalia and hoopla they run out to. So we've done a ton of visual upgrades this year. And yes, his chin's really that big. So here's an example of one of those live cameras. You can see there's like a fluidity to it that you wouldn't normally see in the way it's shot. That's just really only available if you actually have a human element shooting it and not an artist sitting in the computer. So it's kind of that's him, the guy we're cutting to. That's basically him shooting those shots. So that's one of those live cameras. It's really, really cool tech. We really hope in the future really expand on it more and more. You can see here some of our all new broadcast package. Again, we partnered with some of the leaders in the United States that broadcast NFL games and overlays. There's more of the live cam. Again, it's just sort of stuff you're not used to seeing from different new angles. So really, this year we've really doubled down on our presentation. For our fans specifically, authenticity is number one, and that's the same for us, has always been. We've really invested heavily in presentation this year to truly represent an accurate NFL broadcast. And even from the demo release we've had so far, the feedback's been phenomenal. Lots of visual upgrades this year. All the equipment on the players is all. We actually hired a guy this year whose only job was to go through and look at equipment on players and make sure that it's correct. So everything, we got all the shoes from all the manufacturers this year, all the gloves, wristbands, everything's accurate. And that stuff can also be updated throughout the entirety of the year, which is pretty cool. So if a guy decides, it's winter and guys start wearing different things, we can update that so it's always reflected. So you'll see here's one of the cameras that's specific to this stadium. So if you go to different stadiums, this camera is in different locations based on where a real game, where it would be. So all 32 teams have that completely accurate. So, if I'm a Seahawks fan and I'm watching this game at home, this is exactly the camera view that I'm used to seeing because that's where they put the cameras in the stadium. So, we've really, really gone after, like when I say a love letter to the fans, it really is, you guys are fans of the sport, what can we do to make this as accurate as possible? So we're going to see with lots of the cuts and things like that, these are the camera cuts. These are all the cameras that are shooting. This is all accurate to exactly where they would really be shooting from. I love that camera shot. It's pretty cool.
They'll start at the 21-yard line. Now we have a first down.
So you'll notice when I start to play initially, really when you guys get your hands on it and start playing it, it's much easier to feel than it is really to show off. But you'll notice the game will feel much more responsive. A lot of that has to do with an all-new collision system because nothing happens until there's actual contact. One of the biggest complaints we've had in the past is that when you got behind the lineman, you would suck into them, and then we used to call it Mario running because they would just run in place. I'm sure you've seen it in a variety of other games. We've been able to completely eliminate that this year with this whole new system. So really the feedback we've gotten, we share quite a bit of tech with our college football variety version. Everyone's really, really happy with the steps we've been able to make. For sort of the crowd that might not be too into the actual, the nuts and bolts strategy part of American football, when I mentioned earlier last year released game flow, some of the improvements we made this year are go through. You can actually now call a game plan, which is exactly what your team would run. We actually have guys at the office that watch every single play from an entire season, mask what they run when they run it, and that'll just call plays similar. But you can also do either aggressive or conservative, and you can call plays based on either being overly aggressive or more conservative, obviously. And on offense, you can choose to pass, run, or run the game plan. So it's still a very accessible, usable feature that doesn't require tons of strategy and thinking, but at the same time, you're actually able to influence the decisions. Now, the next piece I want to talk about when we're in game is called dynamic player performance. And what that means is basically we've added 17 new traits to players that actually accurately represent sort of the mental aspect of football as well as some skill set. A great example is the quarterback for the New York Giants. His name is Eli Manning, and he's notoriously either he's the best player on the field or he's awful. And what we want to figure out is why does that happen? And really, there's certain things that happen. If he gets hit a few times, he'll start to get really happy feet, and he'll start to throw the ball early. He'll start to think he's about to get hit, but he's not. And we wanted to replicate that in our game for all positions. So in the case of Eli, you can even if you go to a game, you can watch Giants fans start to go like this because they know it's coming because he gets hit a few times. They know he's going to start playing poorly. And the same line, he can be amazing. So if you're controlling him and you can sort of manage the game with him and get his confidence up, then he can play a lot better. And that, again, is for all positions. If there's like a guy out here and you keep picking on him and trying to pass on him over and over and over again, he'll start to get rattled and get worse. He'll lose confidence in himself. He'll start to make bad decisions, or he'll get overly aggressive, which is a lot of guys do, and make mistakes. So really, it's kind of the game within the game that real coaches manage. We've replicated that this year. Along with the roster updates, that stuff can all be updated throughout the entire season. So let's say 6 weeks from now, some guy's having a rookie's having an amazing breakout year. We can change his traits to make him better or worse.
It's 2nd down and 6.
Run this last play here, and then I'll jump into franchise mode, which that's really our most played mode. It's the manager mode that we have. We've really added a ton of depth. We hired, we moved over a new designer this year who worked on really our most acclaimed simulation game, kind of, like our manager game that we had a couple years ago, head coach. He's now the designer for franchise mode in Madden, and it's really made huge differences this year.
The biggest addition is dynamic player performance, powered by confidence and consistency. These 2 new traits will ensure that you'll never have the same experience twice when playing a franchise mode game. Every week, each player's ratings will change based on how consistent they are and their level of confidence coming off of their last game. If your franchise quarterback is extremely consistent, their ratings will change slightly. With guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you always know what you're going to get when they step on the field. With someone who is less consistent, you never know what you'll get. He could play better or worse than you expect him to any given Sunday. The players that perform at a high or low level for consecutive weeks are on a hot or a cold streak. You'll see an icon next to their name in the player management screen that tells you when this happens. Cut days featuring expanded rosters is a feature you've asked for years, and it's new in Madden NFL 12. Take 75 players in your first preseason game, then cut down each week as you try to learn a little more about the guys you invited to camp. Off-season free agency is a much more fast-paced and interactive feature this year with a new free agent bidding mechanic.
It's cool. It's kind of like eBay. So basically, you bid on guys, and as the time falls, you have to kind of bid, try to be the highest bidder to bid on guys.
So you might just lose that player that you need to turn your franchise around. Player roles are back in Madden NFL 12 for the first time in years, and they add a deep RPG element to the franchise experience. There are over 20 new roles to be earned or lost by players every offseason, and most of them have an impact on the field in your franchise games. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. The rest of the new features range from being able to practice in franchise mode to a fully functioning injured reserve. From future draft picks to the ability to change teams in the offseason. We've even got a new scouting system. So we've added a ton of new features this year, and we really hope you guys enjoy playing franchise mode in Madden NFL 12.
So 2 things there, I think really to pick out is one is obviously we've done a ton of stuff this year, especially under the hood to get things running. We've really added new, more interactive kind of fun mechanics like the player bidding. It's actually much more, it's no longer passive. You're kind of aggressively trying to manage guys. There's time ticking down. You might have 2 seconds left and a team can swoop in at the end and become the highest bidder, and then you got to try to get back over and bid. And the other thing that I really like is we mentioned the player roles. What player role is, a best way to explain it is, let's say you have a guy on your team, he's kind of like the grizzled old veteran, he's been around for 15 years, knows a lot about the league, he might not be that great anymore, but he's just really just kind of a veteran pro. Well, in our game, let's say you draft a rookie who's like a young hot shot at the same exact position. You can go out and sign that old guy or have him on your team, and he can become his mentor and make him better by being on the team. And that happens commonly in the NFL all the time. But that's just one role. There's tons of roles from, franchise player, meaning by him being on your team makes everyone around him better, and he can bring your team up. If you also draft a guy and he's terrible and he's a bust, he can drag down the rest of your team. They're all miserable, and you can kind of set your team back a few years. So really, we've gone. It's since I worked on Madden, which has been a long time, probably the most additions we've ever done to franchise mode in 1 year since adding the mode itself. And the feedback we've gotten from our fans so far has been actually just been phenomenal, because it's pretty much the entire hit list of everything they've asked for all in 1 year. And realistically, when you go into the game, if you don't want to do any of that stuff, you just want to play the season, you can just press start and play, or you can bring everything up and get really into the nitty gritty. We have news now that you can find out what's going on around the league. You can cut players, etc. It's all really accessible. We've redesigned the entire interface as well to make it easier to use. So moving on from franchise mode, it's probably boring for you guys to watch me tool through a bunch of spreadsheets. So I really just want to hit on the last thing is online communities, which I talked about before, which I can't connect to in here, but now really it's just a way for you to go on, play in a large group or a small group of people, really make a customized online experience for you. That's one of the things I think we've sort of chased. We've kind of continually chased this idea of this perfect online Madden experience when we realize that's not possible. Everyone wants to play their own different way. There are guys that want to play on all Madden difficulty, which is ridiculously hard, and there's guys that just want to play on rookie and throw it around. And we really wanted to give that tool set over to our fans and let you guys make your perfect online world through your own leaderboards. And really, it's really gone off very well so far. We have Ultimate Team this year as well, returns. This will be our third year in Ultimate Team, similar to our brethren on FIFA. Really great card trading game. You can get new packs. One of the big things this year we signed a bunch of legends, which is pretty cool. So some of the best players throughout NFL history are now available. Again, you can trade cards as well, which is a new feature. Another thing we did was Madden Moments Live. This is, again, sort of that commitment we talked about to continually updating the game. In Madden Moments Live, what we do is we actually provide the ability now throughout the season, about 2 or 3 days after the last game's played of that week, the best scenarios from that week we'll be able to push out and players can recreate and play, including, the rosters will be correct, images from the game will be available, and then when you play, you get a score that will rank you against the rest of the nation, or the world really, as well as your friends specifically. So kind of it's a chase every week. And again, it's that commitment to continually updating our game. We really pride ourselves on making sure the game's fresh every single time you boot it up. And I really can't emphasize enough with the lockout coming, all this stuff, really we built this looking back at the possibility of a lockout to make sure everything in our game can be up to date all the time.